Well, welcome to day 3. It's been a great, successful conference. I can't wait to get through this speech. Before I get going, though, I need to thank Monty. He's an incredible chair, an incredible conference. So let's give Monty a round of applause. So I said to Monty, "Great job, Monty." And the first thing he said wasn't me; it was the team. So we need to recognize the team one more time. So if you could stand up in your orange vests and get recognized one more time, we'd appreciate that. Stand up. Conference committee, stand up. Great job. So let's wrap this up. Yesterday, John Thomas presented on our strategic performance measures. He presented on the work that he and the Asset Advisory Committee had been working on for the last few months. And for years, we've wanted a way to try to understand the success of our strategic goals, just at a glance. Up till now, we've had to take 14 different measures and trying to figure out one's going up and one's going down and one's going the other way. How do you decide whether you're meeting your goals if you have 14 different measures? What this group did is they took those 14 measures and they aligned them with our strategic goals, and then they came up with an indice for each one of them. And you can see them back here. A lot of work. They took each one of those goals, they put a target for each one of those, they put the data together, and now we have a way in a very quick, easy to look at place to see how we're doing as an organization. As you can see from the slide behind me, we have numbers now. And out of context, they don't really mean a lot. What does 33 mean on our zero fatalities goal? But over time, that number will change, and we'll be able to evaluate our success in terms of fatalities. We'll be able to evaluate all of our strategies and how they are moving our needles. We'll be able to decide or look at the effort of everyone in this room and how that effort moves these dials. So it's extremely exciting, very proud of what they have done. But that's just step one. In talking to John the other day, he laid out, I think, 45 or 50 different steps to get this all the way to the end. But they are at step one, and it was a great accomplishment. They're going to move on now to our tactical measures. They're going to evaluate them. They're going to organize them. Measures like scope, schedule, and budget. Things like that we have all throughout our organization. We're going to pull them together, put them in one place so that we can see them and use those to make decisions to help drive these 3 goals. Again, great accomplishment, and I couldn't be more proud of what they did. So on Tuesday, to kick this off, Carlos talked about his values. And he was really clear to talk about you need to separate your values from his values and the department's values. And I wanted to make sure that as you walk away from here, you think about what he was saying. He did not say, take mine and make them yours. He said, find your own. And it's really important to find your own because, like he said, they anchor you in a time when it's just chaos. When there's things coming at you from all different directions, your values are what that anchor you into that place and allow you to make consistent, well thought out decisions. So take the time and sit down and do that. So I have thought about that, but mine didn't occur to me on a bike. I don't get into the zone when I ride bikes. I feel like I get hives when I ride bikes, so there's no way that mine are going to come to me on a bike. But they did come to me when I was playing sports. And when Carlos first talked about the code and values, it reminded me of a time when I played baseball in college, and I would sit out in the outfield. And I don't know if you know this about baseball, but other than Game 7 of the World Series, it's pretty boring. And so on Game 2 of a doubleheader on a Saturday afternoon, you have a lot of time to think in the outfield. And so out there I'm thinking, what drives me? What motivates me? That's where my zone came in. Probably not the best place to zone out, but that's where it happened. That's probably why I don't play anymore. So when Carlos mentioned that, it got me thinking, I have thought of these things, I just haven't taken the time to write them down. And so I took the time and wrote them down, and I want to share one of those with you, and share with you how that motivates me, how that drives me, how that helps me do the job I'm doing today. It's very similar to Carlos's ain't got no quit in me. So it's about pushing through failure, overcoming those challenges. But it goes more than that. For me, it's just not getting through those challenges. It's the attitude that I want to have as I push through those things that just don't go the way they should. In the book, Happiness Advantage by Sean Anker, he has a full chapter called Falling Up. Now, me and my closest, I think 8 or 9 closest friends have been reading that book in the book club over the last year. And this whole chapter is about how do you turn that negative experience into positive? How do you grow from something that just feels so bad? That's what my value is. Angela Duckworth wrote a book called Grit. And in the book, Grit, she just defines grit as passion and perseverance. I think if I added a third P to that and called it passion, perseverance, and positivity, my value could be defined as grit. Just getting in there, getting gritty, getting it done, but getting it done in a positive way and learning from that negative experience I had. But I know, and I know because I'm not always successful, I won't be always successful. So in order to make it positive, I had to retrain the way I think. I had to retrain the way I think about failure and turn failure from failure to feedback. Just throw away the word failure, and in my mind, I think of that as just some feedback that didn't match my desired outcome. So I no longer have failure in my vocabulary, I have feedback. True failure to me is not trying something and not being able to overcome it. True failure is quitting or walking away. To me, that's what true failure is. Babe Ruth once said, "Never let the fear of striking out stop you from playing the game." Not playing is failure. Walking away, that's failure. So you hear leaders, you've heard me say it, you heard Carlos say it the other day, we don't punish failure. It's okay to fail, right? You hear that all the time. But when you try something and not successful, it still is painful. So how do you take that, now it's not failure anymore, it's negative feedback, and turn that into something positive? How do you do that? For me, it goes back to when I played baseball and finding those small wins. Now, when you play baseball, you know when you walk up to the plate that you're going to have a 65% chance of being unsuccessful. You know before you even walk out of the dugout, there's a good chance that you're going to fail or not succeed. So you have to have a whole different mindset when you step up there. You have to change your mind to think about that attempt as feedback, so that when you go back to the dugout, you can evaluate what you did right and what you did wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, the first thing that I felt as I walked back after not being successful wasn't, oh good, what did I do right? There were times when my helmet would be thrown across the field, or at the time I had these sports goggles, which are pretty hot when you're 18 years old. You have these sports goggles on. But if something would go wrong, they may be thrown into the back of the dugout. But then you get a chance to sit down and think, okay, what did I do right and what did I do wrong? And the next time I get up there, what am I going to change? That's how I would stay positive, finding those small wins. So for me, grit means getting up to the plate, knowing it will be difficult, but having the confidence to swing for the fence regardless of the odds, regardless that I know that I'm going to fail 65% of the time. So Thomas Edison once said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that it didn't work." To me, that's how you stay positive. It's the mindset. It's not failure, it's feedback. Just feedback on the road to success. It really matters what you do with that opportunity. Did you learn from it or did you quit? Did your mindset change when you went through that? So, back to it's okay to fail. Is it okay to fail? Is it okay to stop trying? No, that's not what we meant. What we mean when we say that is it's okay to try, and then try again, and then try again, as long as you're learning along the way. So this value of grit works really well for baseball, but how does it apply to the things we do? Grit for me pushes me to be innovative. How does it do that though? Let me start by talking about innovation in general. So I'm going to unveil something to you that I've been working on for the last couple years. I'm still working on it, still perfecting it. Some of you have seen it. It's my theory of innovation, and it looks like that. It's taken a lot of time and effort to come up with that curve. But for all of you engineers out there, I didn't have a bunch of data to do a regression analysis on, right? This is not a regression curve. This is me simply saying, I think it looks like this. That's my engineering for today. But where I went to school, they taught me this principle called the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. So that's what I've done. But this is just a framework for a conversation around innovation and how I think it works over time. So on the bottom, you have time, and on the left axis, you have rate of innovation. So all throughout this curve, innovation is influenced by different things: technology, risk, culture, and the fear of failure. All plays into how quickly someone innovates. You can see it starts very slow. It goes through a transition, and then it goes almost vertical. But I think one of the biggest influencing factors is that fear of failure. But let's take a closer look at the curve. And we'll start at the bottom in that flat section. So it's very flat, but you can see that innovation is happening. It's not like we're not doing things. It's just happening very, very slowly. And it happens slowly because we are very afraid of failure down in this section. And we want to mitigate every single risk we can so that when we do innovate, there's zero chance of failure. And if you do that, it just takes a very long time to get that innovation out there. And when we're in this section of the curve, our unsuccessful attempts last forever. They have a very long memory. Let me give you an example of that. Has anyone heard of Syncrete? A few people. Probably everyone in this room has heard of Syncrete. But almost no one in this room was around when Syncrete happened. It's just this lore that's been around forever. And what we learned from that experience was to never, ever, ever do it again. And because of that, that really stifled our innovation. Now, I wasn't around when that happened, but from the stories that people tell, it was clear that once that happened, we just kind of slowed down. But over time, we started to do more innovative things, and we started to build on those innovations. I-15 in Salt Lake County, first design build we've ever done, extremely successful as a whole. Sure, there were challenges along the way, but it was very successful. So we started to move up this curve. And then we got to move a bridge. And we took a while to move that first bridge because we wanted to be, we're pretty risk adverse, so that's a good thing. We don't want bridges falling down when we move them. But once we moved the first one, then we moved 60 more. And we moved up this curve. And then innovative intersections came along. We had DDIs and CFIs and through-use pushing us further along this curve. Most DOTs live in this bottom part of the curve because most of them are very risk adverse. Now, I've been talking to several people at this conference today, and many of them have said, man, Utah DOT is so innovative. Where I just came from, it was like 20 years ago for here. So we are very innovative, but most DOTs live down here. Because when something goes wrong, often it's in the news. No one wants to be in the news when things go wrong. So you take a lot of time to mitigate those risks. And that's okay because the things we do really impact people's lives. So we don't want to be reckless at all. We want to take our time, but we shouldn't let that caution stop us from being innovative. So let's move past this bottom section and talk about the curve section. So these successes are built into an inflection point. And I think it's at this point when the mindset changes. It's at this point when failures really become feedback, and you start to leverage that feedback. I think this is the sweet spot. I think this is where we want to be as an organization. But I'm going to come back to that section in a second. I want to talk about the top part. The top part is just crazy town. Innovation's just off the charts. It's just happening very, very quickly. Failure up here is not even in the vocabulary. Any attempt is just another attempt to be successful. Here, innovations aren't building on each other. They're expounding upon each other, and they're moving very, very quickly. But this section of the chart doesn't come without some caution. some things you need to worry about if you're up here. Standardization and consistency are two things that are very difficult to maintain if you're up here. So I don't see us up in this part of the curve. However, we do need to be ready to implement those technologies that are up in this part of the curve. We need to make sure we have the right policies, the right procedures in place, so that when they do come to us, we can be flexible enough to innovate and implement them into our system. But we're dealing with public safety, so I think it's just too volatile up in this section for us to be there. Let me give you an example. Has anyone heard of the Galaxy Note 7? Does anyone have a Galaxy Note 7? Good, I don't have to ask anyone to leave. So that's the phone that starts on fire. You take it on a plane with you, and you can't take it on a plane with you because it bursts into flame and you have to turn the plane around. But what did Samsung do? They pushed out a replacement like that. Yes, that replacement didn't quite work, so they pushed out another one, but they are innovative enough, they can push something out that quickly. Could you imagine what would happen to Samsung if they were in the bottom part of the curve and it took a long time to innovate? There would be no Samsung, or at least there would be no Samsung in the phone business, right? Now, some would say, yes, but had they taken the time to mitigate all those risks, their phone wouldn't start on fire. That's true, but they would be on the Galaxy Note 1 and be out of the phone business anyway. So they have to be up there. They have to take those risks in order to compete. But we don't. We can be a little more cautious. We can buy us some time and balance time and risk and innovate at a good, consistent rate. So let's move. We need to move back into that middle. We want to be in that sweet spot. But we need a culture shift, I think, to get us past that inflection point. We need to think like Walt Disney. Walt Disney said, failure is only the opportunity to begin again, only this time more wisely. That's the mentality we need to have to get past that point, to get back in that sweet spot. It's okay to take a risk as long as we learn from it. And I think one of the biggest things we need to get us past that point is the leadership that's in this room today. It really comes down to leaders. I had a good conversation today in the hall about this very topic. Where are our leaders when it comes to innovation? Have we bought in fully that it's okay to fail as long as we learn? It's okay to not succeed as long as we learn? So leaders have a huge role at this point. I was talking to Terry Newell about this speech, and she said, there's a book you need to read. It's by Simon Sinek. It's called Together is Better. And in it, he has a quote that I think is just perfect for this conversation. And he says, leaders give us the chance to try and fail, and then give us another chance to try and succeed. That's exactly what we need from our leaders. To get past that point, to change the culture, even though we're extremely innovative, to change that culture and do more, it takes the leadership in this room to do it. When we get into this middle section, into this sweet spot, that's where success starts to drive us. That's where the unsuccessful attempts and that feedback starts to drive us as well. So we get it from both ways. Down the bottom, if you fail or if you're unsuccessful, it stops. Here, it grows and it compounds on each other. Here, failures don't live forever. You can go right past them because we have built the political capital we need to withstand a setback when they happen. But that doesn't mean that those unsuccessful attempts don't hurt. It just means that we have the ability to overcome them. So for me, this is where grit comes into play. Passion, perseverance, positivity. That mindset of moving from failure to feedback. Let me give you an example of an industry that I think is in this sweet spot. And some of you may disagree. Some of you may think that they're up in the steeper section. And that's the autonomous vehicle development industry. They're innovating very, very quickly. But they're doing it at a very good balance of time and risk. They recognize that what they're doing affects people's lives, and they're going about it very systematically. They're not outpacing consistency or standardization. Now, they may be pushing those two things and pushing it hard, but they're not going past them. They're allowing us, the DOTs, to catch up with them. So I think we in Utah are just poised to move into this sweet spot. But again, it's going to take the leadership of everyone in this room to go back to your employees and make a commitment that you want them to try it and tell them it's okay to try as long as they learn from it and try again. So why did I just spend 20 minutes talking about this? I did because we're known to be a very innovative DOT, and that's only going to continue. But along the way, everyone in this room is going to run into those opportunities where the outcome that you wanted just wasn't quite what you got. And I want to try to get your mindset shifted from failure to feedback so that you can deal with those setbacks and you can move the ball forward. And you can leverage those small wins and try again. So to wrap this up, I have 2 homework assignments for you. One, Carlos gave you on Tuesday. And I think it's extremely important, and you need to do it. Go find your values and write them down. Don't just think about them, but write them down. The first 3 will be simple. I don't care where you do it. Do it on your way home, if you're the passenger, not if you're the driver. Do it in a field somewhere. I don't care. Sit down, think about them, and write them down. First 3 are easy, the next 7 are hard. But take the time and do it. They will drive you, and therefore they will drive the department to be successful. So take that time. And then secondly, find out where you are on that curve. Find out where you are as a person, and find out where you are as a leader. Ask your employees what they would say about your leadership style. Would they say you are the type of leader that would give them a chance to try and fail and then give them another chance to try and succeed? Or are you the type of leader that says, look, bud, you get one shot and you better make it good? Where are you on that scale? It's important for you to figure this out because we want to continue the innovation trend here at the DOT. And again, it's going to take you to do it. So step up to the plate. Don't be afraid to step up the plate and try. If you don't try, you've already failed. So step up to the plate, take your shot, take your swing, and keep moving forward. UDOT's success is definitely a product of your success. So I'm going to wrap this up by saying what Carlos always says. Thank you for all you do. Be safe out there. Buckle up. Put your phone down. And you keep Utah moving. Thank you.